Welcome to the Felt Dyslexic Artist Interview. My name is Liz Buckridge. For me, as a dyslexic artist, other artists and creatives have always been my number one inspiration. In these interviews, we talk with artists and creatives who share their stories, and we gain insight into their process from inspiration to art tips to career building and more. We're so lucky to listen to the wisdom of Monica Rodgers today. I'm so excited to hear about her past and future projects and her insights as an artist. Hi, Mon.
Hi, Liz.
Thank you for talking with us today.
This is such an awesome thing that you're doing. Really. Thank
Yay.
you so much for inviting me.
So I'm going to jump right in. Describe the art you make. What mediums do you primarily work in, and why do you choose those mediums?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, up until January, my medium was podcasting. And so for me, it was all about like articulating, right? Like the world the way that I saw it. And then I just in these past several months started getting into acrylics. I felt like I really wanted to start learning how to express um, something that felt beyond words, right? And so I was integrating a lot of different um, experiences, and I started really like seeking a way of expressing that in the arts. And I found a program that I absolutely loved, and I started a certification in basically kind of like an art therapy for women. And so far, it's been acrylics, drawing, mixed medium, but I didn't think I would like acrylics, and I'm loving it. Yeah.
Do you work in any other mediums?
So I've always dabbled in watercolor or in drawing, but I would, or journaling, right? Like actually mixed media journaling. But I would say, like, yeah, now, of course, the sky's the limit because I went and like go big or go home, got a studio. So I think I'm going to be doing like all the things. That's what I want. Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Um, how did you get into making art? Can you tell us about your background and how you first became interested in making art?
Oh my gosh. So as a kid, art was like my so I was somebody who grew up in a home like so many of us where there was a lot of tension, right? There was a lot of roles to play. And so dad kind of was always off doing, working, and mom was at home. And, it was one of these like escapes for me. It was either reading or art. And whenever I was kind of, what I would notice for myself, even at that age, was it just was a happy place for me. Right. And so when I was a kid, even in high school, it was like where I found my sanctuary was with the art teacher in the art room. Yeah.
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 So what themes or subjects inspire your work?
Okay. So, themes and subjects, for sure, the sacred feminine, which has been really something, it, it's like my soul's journey, I think, really, is to like explore what is this kind of face of the feminine, right? And all of the different aspects of the feminine. And so I think the feminine comes through in all ways. I mean, she's literally like the spark of life within us, right? And so it's nature. So a lot of like symbology, a lot of mythology, right? It's like kind of looking through all of the things that are alive in me and kind of trying to express those with the canvas. Yeah.
How did you get into your specific style?
I feel like I'm still finding it. Yeah.
Love
But I
that.
feel like I'm saying yes to the mess, right? Because what comes up when you start getting creative in a visual way is you start hearing the inner critic, right? And so it's just me turning toward those voices, right, that are still there after all these years and just noticing, right? And just really noticing that what's really there is a deep desire to want to create something of meaning. Yeah.
I love that. Do you consider yourself neurodivergent or neurotypical?
Neurodivergent. So neurodivergent.
Have you faced any challenges or setbacks in your art career, or and how did you overcome them because of that?
So I'm going to go back to all of those years of podcasting and really, because that was where I learned to give myself permission to really start noticing, like, where in the day did I have the most energy? Where in the day did I have the most ease? Where in the day did I feel the most grounded? Because I think for me, it was finding a place to feel at home in my own body and my own nervous system. And so oftentimes just giving myself permission to cancel the day if that's what it meant, or right, like really, really find ways to approach my own method, and find my own way and radically approve of it.
Love that. Where did you grow up?
I grew up right outside of Detroit in Grosse Pointe, Michigan. So it was a very like upscale, neighborhood, a lot of doctors and lawyers and kind of like Beaver Cleaver life in the beginning. In the beginning, yes. Yeah.
So, you did art when you were a kid.
I did art when I was a kid, but what I really loved, so I ended up going to a Waldorf school for a couple of years. And that was one thing, like, I love my mom for seeing that need in me, and she was really good at nourishing it. So, where, yes, it was all about the grades in school, there was some way that she really saw that in me and nurtured it in me. So, at some point, they decided, because I was not doing well in school, to send me to a Waldorf school. But I, even as a small kid, I remember kind of going through and driving through downtown Detroit, and the art was everywhere because whether it was graffiti or sculpture or street dancing, like art was everywhere. And so I just was the kid that was like always looking through the window as we would drive to Canada because my mom's family was in Canada. And so we would have to drive through Detroit and cross the river. And that's where we would visit. So we got to go to, Canada, like really at least a couple times a month. Yeah.
Do you remember your favorite type of medium that you used when you were little?
Yeah, I do. It was actually pastels, and you're only jarring that memory now. I loved pastels. I loved the blending of them. I loved the messiness of them. I loved the texture. Like the whole thing was like, yeah, I loved them. Yeah.
Uh, do you have, this might be a little bit of a weird question, but do you have a favorite colorway for your art? And is it the same or different as the colors you use in your house?
I think I always gravitate towards a lot of blue. Yeah. Um, but I don't think, I mean, yeah, I would say that like my house is a reflection. I think that my style is just really eclectic. And so for me, it's just if it resonates and it feels beautiful, like it doesn't matter to me if it's bright red, but I do love pops of color too. So I love like sometimes a muted palette with a pop of red or a pop of blue, right? Where the color actually then really gets to feel alive in a space. Yeah, that's how I would, yeah, answer that question. It's a good question.
So describe the space where you make your art. Where are we?
So we're in a studio at Shady Lee Mill, and it's a brand new place for me. It's a brand new space for me. And I, again, on this journey of intentional creativity, part of that for me is full permission. And what does that even feel like in my body? And so this studio came available um, very synchronistically. And I just kind of said yes, even though the space felt way too big for me. I thought, I'll grow into it, like it's okay if it's one of those, like, it's what I keep telling myself is, Monica, it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to be messy. So, like, what do I have to lose? Right. So it was like, yes, this space is great. I approve. Right. And it's giving myself that self approval over and over again through this process. Yeah.
I love that. I just want to mention this is Luke Randall's old studio.
Mhm.
So I think that it's just such a red thread. It's amazing. I
It
love
is
it.
a red thread. And look at the goddess behind you with the red thread around her.
Oh, you do red threads too?
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
much. Um, So, how did your school system support your interests in art growing up? Do you remember, like,
I remember everything. I mean, that's a neurodivergent brain. I feel like
it is, yeah.
well, it's like, yeah, it's like not the things they wanted me to remember, right? But it was more like, how did I feel? And I remember how I felt was so unseen, so unsupported in school, but not by the art teachers. It was almost like I, those were always the people that could see, right? Could see the kid, at least in my world, could see the kid that was like, get me the hell out of here. You know what I mean? And that was me. I mean, I was the dreamer, you know, and I would come into class, even if it was a subject that I loved, and plan on, you know, and then suddenly my imagination would take me to another place. And it was almost like I would wake up as kids were gathering their books back up. And I was just like, how does this keep happening? But that was my experience of my own brain. It was like I just went to this other place. And it was, you know, interesting for me to find the art room in every school because I actually ended up at 9 different schools. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Part of that, part of your memory is called episodic memory.
Uh,
Um, so, how do you see your work evolving or changing in the future? What do you have planned?
so I think my vision moving forward is my deepest desire has been to continue helping women to really navigate their own soul's path. And in order to do that, you just need a few tools. And those tools are not taught on our surface level life. And we don't need to know how to just snorkel. We need to understand how to deep dive and how and what the soul's journey is really all about. And so helping women to access their own unique experience and their own journey through the arts, through metacognitive drawing, through self expression. That's where I really see a future vision for what I'd love to do. Yay,
So excited.
happy.
Is making art emotional process for you or strategic?
Oh my God, emotional. Yeah, all the way. And there are times where I'm just like I will be sobbing because that's the part, you know, it's like the parts of you. We talk about parts for a reason, right? We are multifaceted. We're like a disco ball, right? Of different facets and parts. And we're so busy in this one reality, which is not, of course, it's a multidimensional reality trying to wear the right mask and play the right role. And so, what this is about is unbecoming from all of that, you know, and saying yes to the mess. And really, like a lot of people consider emotions very messy, right? It's like they're inconvenient. I don't have time to feel that, you know, and it's like, and so it's really like unlearning all of that like rigidity that keeps us from really getting to the place where we're like, oh my gosh, like, I actually feel free in my body, you know, like I'm lit up, like I feel alive again, you know. And so for me, all of those tears, all of those emotions, all of those, whether it's rage or anger or grief or joy, they all have a place at the table when I'm, you know, like painting or really doing anything. But I find that art can be and creativity can be a really fascinating way to heal, to reveal parts of ourselves that we've not experienced for a very long time, if at all, and just to really explore.
Can you walk us through your creative process from idea to finished piece?
So, believe it or not, I never come to the canvas with an idea. I might have, like, I might say, I want to paint a face, but I'm more open to like a co creative process. So, the canvas for me becomes more of a portal. And what I do and how I've learned to be in my own life is through almost like a ceremony of sorts. And so bringing elements into my paintings or into my expression, or at least presencing those elements. So, like fire, water, right? Like, what am I creating with? Air, earth. And usually I'm doing the the painting process in what I call like layers. And so I always start with an intention. And the intention might be actually to, like I said, paint a face, but then I'm open, right? And my intention might be that I'm in an inquiry. And maybe in the inquiry of like, why is my body hurting today? Right. And then I go to the canvas and I kind of am in a co creative process to kind of get answers and see what gets revealed to me through the process that can help me either release something or know something that I didn't know before. And then usually I don't start bringing anything into form until many layers and layers. And I'm usually just like watching my own emotional journey or process as I'm kind of getting to the place where I'm like, oh, I kind of like what's happening here. And then I start bringing it into form. Yeah.
Well, um, I don't even know if you're selling anything yet, but how do you combine the art you love to make and the art you sell?
So I think anyone can combine, right? But I think it's its own art form. And one of the things that I also love doing is helping other female entrepreneurs because most of the time we think the painting is the gift. And it's usually not. It's the story. It's the story you're selling. And so like any don't want to touch my mic here. Anybody who is, and I'll bring it back to me in a minute, but anybody who is creating anything, I think has to figure out what is their story, right? And what are the kind of highlights of the story and how are they bringing their work to the world in a way that then you can resonate with the story because then the work has meaning for you, right? And it's like what we're really doing, I think, is creating windows of possibility for other people to see themselves in that thing. And then they're stepping forward through that portal or through that window and saying, hey, I want some of what she's having. Right. And sometimes that's a piece of art, right? That actually reminds us of how we felt when we saw it or whatever the thing is. Yeah. So for me, I think I haven't yet figured out, but part of it for me is back to teaching women that their own imagery lives within them and how to access that imagery and get it on canvas and somehow maybe selling classes that help them do that.
That's what I was just going to ask.
Yeah, yeah.
Are you going to sell classes?
That's what I think I'm going to do. Yeah. We'll see. More to be revealed.
How do people find you then? Do you have a website?
So right now it's jointherevelation.com. And I think I'm going to keep it. I mean, it's really like a testament to all of my work through, I mean, working with Kim Fuller and the Revelation Project in the beginning. And this is yet another aspect of the Revelation Project, but it's called medicine painting, right? And it's really about like we all have inner medicine. And that has been the theme throughout the whole Revelation Project is helping women to access their own inner medicine, whether it be through photography, through self-expression, through painting. So it's probably the website will stay the same and I'll just start uploading the art and uploading the classes.
Yay.
Yeah.
Can you share a recent project or piece of work that you're particularly happy about?
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, I mean, we can point to any one of these that are still in process, but this particular one is called My Inner Wilderness. And believe it or not, there's like 16, 17 layers under here. And it started with a marker, magic marker, and metacognitive drawing. And it was like really kind of going through like this embodiment process that I've learned over these past 6 months that helps me to access like what is the inner wilderness, right? The exotic inner wilderness, and what parts of myself have I not allowed to bloom, or have I maybe like not allowed my instinct to be fully expressed, or whatever that is. And so this painting for me, what it really started symbolizing was all of these different seeds that I'm currently planting in my life for what I'm wanting to, because this is such a dark night of the soul for me too, is this whole process of like going from one career to another. So it's like, what am I really desiring? What am I really wanting? What am I really intending? And planting those seeds really consciously. And so I actually started with the words like freedom and radiance and aliveness, right? And ease. Like, I want to create more ease in my life. So, all of these were intentions that went into this painting. And then what we really focused on as well, because this was, of course, through a class, was kind of like our who are the inner like animals within us, right? And so for me, this octopus came in, and it was kind of like, for me, the arms of the mother in a lot of ways, like the mother that of course, that I have, the mother that I am, the mother, the sacred feminine mother, and all of the ways. Like, I was doing these meditations, and I just kept getting this imagery of like being held, like being supported. And I come to learn that the octopus is very linked to the goddess. So it's kind of interesting, right? I was like, oh, I didn't know. And then the snake for me was kind of how my journey began as a little girl, was hearing the story of Adam and Eve and the snake in the garden, right? And kind of unpacking all of that and untangling from all of that, and seeing the serpent instead as kind of as a wisdom keeper, as the wise one that has whispered to me my whole life, like, no, not that, like, go over here, right? And this is where your path is, right? It's doesn't belong on the surface of life. You're a deep diver. Go here. Yeah.
How do you stay motivated as an artist these days?
Oh, community. Community. And that's what you're creating. And it's so beautiful. So there's such an individual journey, but then we absolutely need a community of people around us, because we're not meant to journey alone. No matter what we've heard about, the badge of independence, and we'll just end up lonely if we continue to do it all by ourselves. So community has been huge for me. And the other way I stay inspired is just with, surrounding myself with beauty or books or music or things that just inspire me, right? And that give me inspiration. But yeah, I've had some low days, especially when you make a big change, right? It's like, oh my gosh. And, it used to be that I wouldn't be transparent about those things, because I was like the girl that had it all handled. I had to be perfect, or so I thought, in order to have love and belonging. Because of course that's the training ground growing up, is like the straight A's. That, I was not that girl, but I think somehow I learned to overcompensate in a negative way. So for me, really getting vulnerable and asking for support has been huge.
Are there other artists or creatives who've been influenced or inspired your work?
Oh my gosh. Frida Kahlo. Oh, there's so many. Georgia O'Keeffe, actually. Okay, well, those are just a few off the top of my head, but then there's so many great local artists. In fact, our own community, Newport, Rhode Island, and Rhode Island in general, is so full of artists. And of course, Luke Randall was a great artist. There's so many. There's so many I love. Actually, Kim Fuller is an amazing photographer. So yeah, there is so many people that I could name right now. But yeah, I would say like Frida Kahlo, in terms of her self-expression, her full permission, her sensuality, her story. It's like all there for me.
Hear ya.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to an aspiring artist looking to pursue a career in the arts?
I would just say, just go for it. You know, it's, there's no, nobody's going to give you permission but you. And the, you are a creator. Like everybody is a creator. And if we don't believe that, that's just because we're in a trance that really has kept us from knowing that we all hold our own images and that we all have access to those images if we dare express them. And I think there's so much pressure on us to do it a certain way, but we're unbecoming from all of that, you know? And I think that's what this era is all about. You know, this era is about full permission, it's about individuality, but it's also about community, right? And so there's always that paradox, but it's really people giving themselves permission to follow the thing that sparks inside of them that says like, oh, like that, like more, show me more, and go in that direction. That's your body telling you go that way. Or you can use my snake.
I love that. Um, what is your favorite book, movie, song, or podcast?
Okay. So I love the podcast Breaking Down Patriarchy. So that's one I've been following for a long time to untangle. So I talk a lot about unbecoming. So for me, part of this process of getting free, right, and knowing my own birthright as a creator is been untangling from what I call the patrix, because it's kind of like our natural habitat is a matrix of life. It's a matrix, it's like of matter, right? Of what matters. And in some cases, and in many cases, what my teacher would say is, we are mattering when we create. And so, you know, there's so much to be said for just, yeah, that spark that just lights you up, and following that and giving yourself as much room as you can. I mean, I don't even know how else to say it. It's just like, yeah.
Your favorite book?
Um, so favorite book, I think I've got one behind me. Wild Creative, that's one of them. Another one that I love is actually called The Divine Spark Within. And it's by an author. His name is Dan Morse. And he kind of wrote this mythological, but also kind of um, spiritual journey about who the cosmic Christ and the Sophia really were, and why there is this need for the masculine and the feminine, and how that divine spark gets kind of awakened inside each of us. And it's just a beautiful book. So I highly recommend that one.
Okay. Um, what do you want to talk about that I didn't ask?
Um, you asked so many great questions. You did. I think what I would maybe elaborate on is um, this idea of intentional creativity, because I think that we're at a time, like we were talking about, where there's so many distractions. And so I feel like intentional creativity is kind of like, you really have to, if it's something that you want to do, you really have to make the space for it. And that becomes a ritual. That becomes like a sacred opportunity to know yourself and to express yourself. And the world needs your voice. And so I just, after getting into this and giving my own self permission to get to this point and to unravel so much, like the contrast between where I was even in January and where I am now, from stopping the podcast and kind of going into this brave new, right, like experience. It just felt like, oh wow, like this is scary, but it was also all of these other things that were exciting and illuminating and revealing. And so that's what I would offer, is just for anybody listening to really just give yourself that space and time and shut off the phone and shut down all the input and get a canvas or a piece of paper and or a journal and just start seeing what your own imagery is and what your own story is and accessing it.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Mon,
you.
for letting us into your studio today. I felt inspired for sure. I
Yay.
always feel inspired by you.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Liz.
Yay.
Thanks, everybody.